All right, and welcome again to another incredible opportunity to join us on this incredible journey. I love Black people, and we've been blessed today to have two amazing, dynamic people who've been doing the good work of our people in spite of so many of the things that we are faced with in the headlines, as well as the everyday trials and tribulations of an incredible Black gifted people. Today I have an amazing sister from Howard University, Erin, Horne, McKinney, and another HU brother, but HU of another HU, Hampton University, good brother, Brett Buckner. Thank you both for joining us. And I wanted to give the listeners an opportunity for you to present your background and let them know that our conversation may start off with George Floyd case, since you are both based in Minneapolis and are natives there. But we're going to really have a broader conversation about what we're doing as a Black agenda and your perspective of doing so under this current climate. And I just was in Minneapolis, and when I say climate, I probably should add that there is the actual physical climate that's very special about Minnesota, because it was quite cold this week. So God bless y'all both for joining us. Thank you.
Help protect us from racism and xenophobia by becoming an I Love Black People ambassador today. Join on iloveblackpeople.com. No matter where you are in the world, join us today and get access to the I Love Black People network. Special thanks to Banneker Communities.
Sister Erin, let's start off with you.
Thank you, Sinclair. I'm Erin Horne McKinney. I am the CEO of Women Venture here in the Twin Cities. That is a women's business, SBA designated women's business center, and CDFI, which is CDFI means a community development financial institution. So we give micro loans, but I'm also the managing partner of a real estate investment firm called Minnesota Impact Partners, doing work to rebuild some of our communities here in the Twin Cities that have been disrupted by a lot of what's going on, and also have just been impacted through the years by a lack of investment.
Awesome. And again, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule, your family. I know you got so many great things going on, and just wanted to say, commend you for just being in my life to help us in so many ways. And thank you for all you do for me individually. Sister Erin, thank you. Brother Brett, what you got, brother? Talk to me. Hey. And I, again, appreciate you showing me around the, Chicago's the windy city. What do y'all call Minneapolis? The cold city?
No, land of 10,000 lakes.
Land of 10,000 lakes. So thank you for showing me around the land of 10,000 lakes. This is this historical week. Want to give the listeners some of your background, and so they know from whence you come. Thank you, Brother Brett.
No, thank you for having me, Brother Sinclair. Brett Buckner, Managing Director of 1MN.org, organization that deals with the issue of racial equity from the economic as well as the democracy side of things throughout the state of Minnesota. I also am blessed to be able to serve as an advisor to that Impact Partnership group that Erin mentioned before, Minnesota Impact Partnership, and trying to revitalize our communities across the metropolitan area and across the state of Minnesota. And I'm also the lead coordinator for an effort called Seeds to Harvest, which brings together community organizations from across the metropolitan area to provide service in the wake of the George Floyd murder. Actually, beforehand, we were dealing with the issues of COVID and the economy before George Floyd was murdered. But we've brought together over 51 organizations to do various projects to support our communities in a very difficult time.
Well, thank you, Brett, and thank you, Erin. I just want to say again, this is only a 30-minute show, and it's no way and we could ever really give just due to the body of work you both are a reflection of, and we definitely appreciate it. And this show is really going to try to give our viewers, excuse me, our listeners, an understanding of what's been going on in Minneapolis, in the metropolitan area, as you adequately say, but also give an understanding from a perspective that often is left out as a Black professional, Black folks who are actually making things happen on a global Black agenda. I guess it would be very helpful if you could kind of give a context of what you think that this week, with the things that we've seen from the verdict from the George Floyd and Dante Wright's murder. Erin, could you give a context, as a professional, as someone who leads organization, leads people, and has a wonderful family going off to college? Like you're doing so many things at so many levels, and I just don't think we just acknowledge that. And I just wanted to, I'll be quiet.
Well, thank you. I think for me, it's been a tough time. I was just talking about it with my sister earlier today, because we were talking about how, those outside of the Twin Cities don't know what it's like to live here right now. And to, for the last week, leading up to, after Dante Wright was killed and up to the verdict, we also had curfews happening, right? So every day at 10 p.m., our phones were going off with that kind of Amber Alert sound, and like reminding people to get off the streets and so forth. And for some, and for my staff members who live in Brooklyn Center, live in that area, or just, it doesn't matter where you are, because you have like the National Guard here for both things, right? And people feeling like they're in a war zone. And so my sister, who's a Marine veteran, she was saying to me just earlier today how triggering it has been to be here over the last year, but especially over the last couple of weeks, because it's like, one, as a person of color, and just like how every movement that people are looking at you, right? And then two, as somebody who, like, when you're trying to talk to people outside of the Twin Cities, could be a Black person, doesn't matter. They have no idea what it feels like, the tense feeling that has been in our community, and just like the amount of trauma of physically being in this space right now, and what feels like and is ground zero of the current civil rights movement, right, and social justice movement. But also for me, like, it's as a parent of two young Black male children, even though to me the conversation is not just about Black men, it's also about Black women, but just, seeing young men in our community who look like my son, could be my son, and what it triggers in me if it was my son, right, is the same thing I feel even for a son of our community. And so to have that level of kind of rage kick in, and anger, and wanting to do something about it, but at the same time, that feeling in some ways of helplessness, and feeling like there's not that other people don't care as much as you do about real lives that can never be brought back. It's a very frustrating time.
Yeah, look, you almost made me cry just saying the frustration. I think, yeah, wow, that's heavy. Brett, now look, I might have to switch up, Brett, because I don't want you to come behind stuff like, that was,
yeah.
Bruh, what you got, bruh?
Well, I mean, it has been a very surreal time. I mean, I'm just a couple blocks away from one of the main areas in North Minneapolis. Is called West Broadway, which is the main thoroughfare. And during last year, during the civil uprising, we had a place that burned down that was less than 6 blocks away from my house, with rioters going up, but also not just rioters. We actually had, certain white militia come through the neighborhood trying to shoot things up. And, we say this with all, that gallows humor. I don't think they were ready for the trip into North Minneapolis because they realized that, well, we like to defend ourselves in North Minneapolis. And notice I said like to defend ourselves. And, you had some people kind of say, yeah, we ain't going back to North Minneapolis. We ain't ready for that. But the reality is that we had an armed conflict right in the heart of our city. And to happen at this day and age is just remarkable. I never thought that we would be ground zero for such a historic moment, but now we have the responsibility to try to rebuild and to move forward. And that's all we can really focus on now. So, as much as we'll look back at this and say, just as we've looked back through our history, I mean, this is a conversation that we've been going through for 400 plus years. So for Minneapolis to just be another part of it, our job now is to figure out how to do better than what we have right now.
And I want to point out too that it's interesting to me, the place-basedness of this movement, the fact that one of the most northern states in our country where this is happening, because there has been this fallacy in our country that the North is a safe haven for people of color, that the North is, people follow the North Star to get to the North, right? Mm-hmm. And when you look at it, well, one, if you look at it historically, 2020 would have been the 100-year anniversary of one of the largest mob lynchings in the country that happened in Minnesota. And the fact of the matter is that, I try to tell my children, even when we're moving back here, like, don't sleep, because part of when I was talking about my sister and I were talking earlier, she was like, the question she was asking is, where is it safe in this country? And where is it even safe in our state? Or where is it even safe in our metro area? Because she was talking about, as a Black person here, where do you live? Because you don't feel safe anywhere, especially in Minnesota, which this is the first time, and this is Brett's area, so I don't want to tiptoe into it too much, but he can speak to it. One of the first times since I think the 70s that the state almost went red in the presidential election. So we've always thought of Minnesota as a liberal place, but really that's just clustered in the metro area. We're surrounded by, a red community, Trump supporters, Trump signs that are still up. And the significance of that, just even, yesterday, my son asked me, my 18-year-old son, because he's graduating in a couple of weeks, and from high school, and he was asking me, could he and some friends take a drive, like a celebratory trip up to Duluth, Minnesota, right? 4 hours away. And I said, absolutely not, right? Because between there and here is there's a lot that can happen in 4 hours. There's a lot of communities you go through in 4 hours, and not at this time. To me, that's just like sending my kid in the middle of what, would have been during the 50s and 60s, the thought of like in the middle of the South somewhere, right? It's the same thing. It's unsafe. I can't protect you. And right now, with, on the heels of the recent election, on the heels of this verdict, because let me tell you something, let something happen to my child, okay? America ain't ready. So we just ain't going to have that as an option. But we can't live our lives in fear. So what do we do?
Well, I think that's a good point, Brett. I think policy-wise, I think it was very interesting with some of the things you're already and you continue to do with organizing, from the things you've done with dealing with the census and dealing with the political dynamic here. But I mean, what are your insights to the points Erin's making?
Well, I mean, I'll even break it down just a little bit more. Think about two things, and this is the reason why that trip to Duluth from Minnesota, straight up 35W North or 35W, is so tricky, because between just about no more than 65 minutes north is some of the hottest Klan activity in the state of Minnesota. And again, one of the reasons why we know this is because of the work that we do, understanding where communities are and everything else. Here's the hilarious part to this, and I say hilarious just to kind of put a very interesting swing to this. In 2008, when President Obama was elected, most of the state was blue. And what's happening right now is that you're getting this fear and this backlash that was ginned up by the powers that be that used Trump as the vehicle to kind of put, because it was always there, but it was always based around this whole concept of you're about to lose out. That's all this thing has ever been. You're about to lose control over your society. And so from a policy standpoint, what we're trying to remind people is that there's enough to go around in this great land we call America. Because regardless of what we think about it, I mean, what we have uncovered is the ugly truth of how we do financing in this country. Because now all of a sudden people can't say we can't pay for that. I think we've turned that corner real quick. And no, we didn't do it through taxation. No, we didn't do it through this. So why are we holding ourselves hostage for all the things that we need to make sure that people can be their best selves, ginning up this energy and all this kind of stuff? Because again, in 2008, most of the state was blue. Barack Obama won by about 9 to 10 points. It wasn't even close. No more than, that would make it 8 years. 8 years later, lower voter turnout, bad information, but people believing that their lives are going to change, if, quite honestly, a woman gets elected and starts to put all these communist ideas into place and gets the state narrowed into a place. But to be very clear about this, Minnesota has, outside of DC, is the only state in the union. And yes, DC should be a state, so we're glad that the House did what it's supposed to do. But Minnesota is the only state, along with DC, that actually has voted for the Democratic Party since. And my God, that is 1972, 72, 70, 60. It's been a long time. And, this is the reason why they fought so hard to try to take care of this vote. But, the world is changing drastically. And our question is how do we see success within ourselves? And that's what policy is supposed to help bring people together. And hopefully we start to get over ourselves, because quite honestly, we're going to try to create some type of major mess pretty soon. This is just the tip of the iceberg that we see if we don't get our act together.
And I think the getting the act together is the part that makes even having both of you here, the work that you've been doing predates George Floyd's murder, predates Dante Wright's murder, and may they both rest in peace. And we definitely grieve with their families as an extension of a greater family of Black folks who deal with the horror of white supremacist murders for as long as we can remember. With that being said, what are the things that you're getting up every morning and pursuing for the betterment of our community? As much as we talk about being protected, I really would love to use this opportunity to talk about I Love Black People and what we're doing to create a safety net. And if that was what y'all was doing, I appreciate it. But with so little time, I really wanted to get a segue or a pivot into some of the work that you're doing and continue to do, so that people know about it and can be supportive, inspired, directed by your steps. So, Erin, what would you see as some of the things that now, no, not now, but what you've been doing to make this a better place for your sons and for all of us?
Well, that's a loaded question, because a lot, right? Like, that's my complete body of work. I really realized a long time ago that, like Michael Jackson's song, they don't give a damn about us, right? So like, we got to give a damn. We got to do something. And in starting to really pay attention, I started moving in the world and paying attention to how white men move in the world, right? And the things that they do to help each other, help community, help their network, and try to move the same way with my community, right? Any chance I get, I'm trying to help someone else, help create generational wealth, not just for us as individuals, but like our whole community, and make it bigger than me. And so I think, I realize the power of economic development is one of the first ways to do that, because economic development, it can include real estate, it includes business, it includes just every aspect of the economy. And that's wherever there's money, there's power. So I try to get as close to the power, and as I like to say, be an infiltrator, right? Because it's not lost on me that whether it is the white community or whether it's our community, people don't know what I am, right? I can come off very racially ambiguous. And so people don't come immediately guarded around certain things. Now, when they get to know me, then they know. But in the meantime, I use my my skin color to get in places and spaces, and my quote unquote pedigree to get in places and spaces to be, an activist and an advocate for my community.
Well, all right. And look, and since we're on radio, Sister Erin is light skinned, and she's saying that she's a Howard grad, and so she has a pedigree, as well as just some, she understands there's a thing called colorism, and there's things that she might have opportunities, but being very clear about her mission, she's always been driven by that, and no matter what, uses all these attributes to uplift our community. And we're grateful and thankful. And I'm definitely grateful and thankful that you connect me with some additional wonderful folks like Brother Brett. So piggybacking off what Sister Erin said about some of these spaces and places, are there any specific activities that you're currently engaged in that just would kind of give us some actual examples what Black folks are engaged in at the highest levels in your metropolitan area?
Most definitely. I mean, right now, what I have been blessed to be able to do is it feels like I have turned into the puffy of economic development, putting groups together and just literally just letting y'all let the good people with their talent do some amazing projects. So we're working along in North Minneapolis to redevelop not only one of the 26-acre property park, but also the corridor that's adjacent to it. We project that to be, the park itself is going to be around a $40 million project, and then the corridor itself is going to be somewhere north of about $200 to $220 million, as we get everything together with the various projects that we have concepted. And in Brooklyn Center, been working with the city and actually developing another group and bringing other partners, again, with Minnesota Impact Partners, to help them redevelop their downtown area or to create their downtown area. So again, another $200 million project if we get our act together and do everything right. Even doing something as courageous and creative as owning our own minor league soccer team up here, that brings the people together around the world sports. And really doing some remarkable things there. But it's also just tying in with other projects. Again, we're blessed with this network, and I say tongue in cheek, that we are creating a hit machine. But the reality is that with all these great talents, we are in pretty much every corner in Minnesota. From Rondo area, which is in St. Paul, to Rochester, to Duluth, to St. Cloud, and others, we're pulling groups together to produce economic development opportunities. By the end of the year, we should be, through our network, we should be working on about 35 to 40 different projects across the board. So we're pretty excited about what's going on. The question, but with business, not everything succeeds, not everything fails, and, sometimes things slip along. So we're just going to keep doing what we can in order to carve out our niche, as best as possible, and get people housed, get people with jobs, and actually use our businesses and our experiences to really connect with people in real time. Because I think that's the biggest lesson in the state of Minnesota is that we don't have these places and spaces where we can actually commune and understand. That's what the exchange is with business. That's why when you see a Walmart or a Target, not trying to diminish, our great backyard corporation back here, but when you have those large block organizations, what happens is that you take away the hometown feel where you go get to talk to, Miss Bessie down the block who's selling the hammer or whatever it might be. So we're trying to reimagine how we can actually be a little bit more integral into the overall success of those communities as we are, in the great state of Minnesota. We're browning, we're graying, and we're getting a little. I'll say it this way: there's more of us, but we ain't necessarily liking each other the best right now. So we got to do a little bit better.
I think you bring a great point. And sometimes it seems like we talk about it in a reactionary way when you were saying the United States is browning. And it almost seems like it's a context where, the so-called dominant society, white folks are talking about us and we're kind of like coming along and it's nothing that we can take, what's the word, that we can have agency. I'm clear y'all both are powerful, and I appreciate you for blessing us and being a part of this I Love Black People journey. And as we always wrap this thing up, we always say, I am because we are. And I just thank both of you for sharing all that you're doing with us. And God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Help protect us from racism and xenophobia by becoming an I Love Black People ambassador today. Join on iloveblackpeople.com. No matter where you are in the world, join us today and get access to the I Love Black People network. Special thanks to Banneker Communities.